Hello and welcome to Rotted Review of the Day, and today I am taking a look at the 1974 classic Black Christmas. This is hailed as being one of the first slashers ever, predating even John Carpenter's Halloween. I don't know if I would call it a slasher. I had actually never seen it before until just the other day, and having watched it now, what my takeaway on this was, I thought it was a great movie. It was a very simple concept, but for being a simple concept, I thought it had a surprising amount of depth and care put into its creation. And there were some things that I think set it apart from just being a normal slasher movie. But to get into that, let's get into the categories. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. The plot of this one followed a sorority house, and the girls within are about to go their separate ways on Christmas break. Some of them are staying behind. Most of them are heading out to whatever families and wherever they live outside of the college. And as things are wrapping up, as things are packing up, and as the good majority of the girls have left, a home invasion kind of thing happens, but it's very subtle. It happens underneath the radar of the girl's perspective. One girl dies and is kept up in the attic, and they think maybe she just left until her father comes looking for her, and that starts a chain of events involving the police and where is she and trying to find her and so forth. This is very slow burner type of movie, and I really enjoyed the way that everything about this was carefully crafted and well developed. There wasn't, I think, a single character in this movie that didn't have a certain amount of backstory and depth to them, individual characteristic traits. I wouldn't say that any single person, including the police officers, you can't point at that cop there and say, well, that's generic police officer number 3. You know, he's wearing a badge, so he's an authority figure, and that's all there is to him. Like, no, he has these foibles and this character personality trait, and there's this depth to him. Will he help the girls? Maybe, maybe not, because he does have this going for him. So there's a lot in play here, and every character was carefully crafted with depth, and that ultimately led to a very rich plot line, very rich storyline. So yes, simple concept, guys hiding in the house, he's picking off the girls. But it just winds up being so much more than that thanks to the plot. So I gave that a 20 out of 25. The intent, I gave an 18 out of 25. I don't think that the gruesomeness and the shock value of the kills have held up as well over time, but they were still fairly masterfully done. This is, I think, where it really separates itself from what we now consider to be the typical slasher. This had a lot of implied kills, a lot of off-camera stuff happening, and you mostly saw the aftermath of it. So whereas a typical slasher movie typically revels in the kills and showing as much as they can and just having as much fun with each bloody sequence as it possibly can, this one takes a more toned down approach, and it instead focuses on other aspects of it that are actually in some ways even tougher to watch. Some of the kills there had amazing sound design to them. So while things may be happening off screen, they definitely seem very, I would say tough to watch, but just tough to listen to. So overall, I think I gave the intent 18 out of 25. The acting, 21 out of 25. This was well performed all around. This had no real cheesiness to it. The characters, like I said, they were well developed, and that had a lot to do with how the actors presented themselves. Key standout performances, Margot Kidder playing the character of Barb, John Saxon playing Lieutenant Ken Fuller, who was just incredible in this one. I really loved the care that was put into his character and his performance of that character. He definitely had a bit of a wink and a smile, but still kind of a Papa Bear attitude towards these girls and the situation that they were in, and I think it played out very well. Also, Marion Waldman as Mrs. Mack, the house mother. I really did like her performance. If anything did get cheesy or over the top, I think it was her character, but I think it played well and it worked in the context of the movie that you had this house mother that was overseeing these characters and was providing them with a certain level of care, but at the same time just had this alcoholic, what the heck ever attitude about her. And I thought Marion Waldman played it pretty well. The technical, I gave a 20 out of 25. Like I said, the sound design was incredible, and for having a lot of implied kills, it felt very visceral, and that is largely due to the sound editing and the editing in general. So just, I think there's some masterful work done there. The invasion portion of it was on surface level, from the character's perspective, mostly done throughout the movie as crank phone calls. And yes, it led into a fairly common horror movie trope towards the end. But regardless, it was happening over phone calls, but it wasn't so much, just, I'm going to get you kind of thing. It was very creepy. It had multiple voices even overlapping one another. And I mean, by all accounts, this seems to be just one killer in the house. So, how he got the voice of a man and a woman and a child overlapping with one another without completely breaking his vocal cords. This movie did a really fantastic job of portraying a truly unhinged psychopath. And the crank phone calls were a great element of that, and the multiple voices overlapping with one another was a fantastic aspect to it. So on a technical level, I thought that was just brilliant. So 20 out of 25 on that. Very impressed with this. So that gives us a total score of 79 out of 100 points. This was not just a great Christmas horror movie, and this was not just a great horror movie. This was a great movie overall. But it was all three of those. It was a great Christmas horror movie, and it is absolutely worth watching. This is going to be on my must-watch recommendation list, Black Christmas. Do yourself a favor, and if you don't like the classics, maybe it's time to just try it out. I do recommend it. So, Black Christmas 1974. I thank you for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.